I'm going to discuss qualitative research methodology, specifically concerning my dissertation or the idea that I have for my dissertation. So we're going to talk about qualitative research methodology. This is the introduction. This is the agenda. Kind of what I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover problem statement, kind of what a definition of a narrative inquiry problem statement is, my problem statement from my dissertation edit or rough draft, purpose, my purpose, approach, my approach, data collection, how I plan to collect data, how I plan to analyze data, some ethical considerations, and then if this was an actual presentation, I would stand by for questions. So I'll finish that last slide with the pinning questions, even though no one will be answering or asking those questions. So a problem statement is a short statement. It just addresses the subject of the project. It sets the problem statement, allows the researcher to respect the fact that stories mean something, specifically narrative inquiry. Narrative inquiry or narrative based research, where you're looking at the story, you're looking at the behind the scenes, the in-depth, the rest of the story. When you set your problem statement, you need to consider temporal framing. Temporal framing helps you allow to set the plot, to set the characters, and to set the story. And the idea behind it is you take all of these different interviews and then you put them in a chronological order so you can frame them in how they actually make sense so that you can tell the story of all of the interviews. So my problem statement, I'm going to be looking at the United States Army and how they switched from one physical fitness test of record to the other. And essentially they switched from a 2-event, 3-event physical fitness test to a 6-event. The 3-event physical fitness test required no equipment other than an individual and a person with a stopwatch. The 6-event physical fitness test has thousands of dollars of equipment, a very specifically trained grader, and stringent time requirements, as well as very in-depth events. And the scoring was really not prepared. The physical fitness test of record was there since the early 1980s, and then was replaced in 2010, and then from 2010 to 2017 there was no test of record because the Army had not made a decision on how to go forward. So there were a lot of soldiers that never actually took a test that mattered, and it kind of messed with their promotions, messed with their ability to go to Army schools and advancements. And there was only one company that could provide the equipment that was needed, and eventually this test was paused due to a congressional investigation because it was against certain genders that could not pass the test based off of certain events. That was kind of unfairly designed. Then they got rid of that event, they added a new event, and it kind of went around and around and around, and now as of 2 months ago it was 5 events. So what I want to look at is, following the years of sustained combat, the United States Army recognized the need for increased service members' physical fitness while reducing injuries. The organizational problem led to the decision to introduce a new physical fitness test of record, the first in nearly 40 years. This was given the increased levels of complexity in the ever-changing agile organizational environment. It became increasingly clear that leaders needed to understand which leadership or style was appropriate to produce results. Understanding the flexibility and adaptability that were required to understand complex leadership, self-organized criticality, and complex adaptive systems helped leaders navigate the challenges faced both externally and internally within organizational environments. So what that means is the Army had a problem, and leaders had problems as well, which led to soldiers experiencing an extreme amount of stress and unpredictability and no consistency. So that kind of brings me to my purpose. A narrative inquiry's purpose is to respect the importance of a story, to understand the meaning of the story, and to construct and reconstruct and understand that meaning by co-constructing, looking at contested or resisted interactions. So my purpose is to generate a deeper understanding of the complex change of the United States Army physical fitness test requirements and how it affected service members and how it still has an effect on the Army. There is a lot of quantitative study done on the Army physical fitness test and injury preventions and a lot of that. There is no qualitative studies looking at the actual story of service members and how it affected everything from their mental well-being to their ability to do their job, to the change in their daily duties and scope, and just the complete understanding of how the physical fitness test changed the Army from top to bottom. And that's the entire purpose of my study. The study is going to examine the effects of leadership behaviors, complex adaptive systems, and interconnectiveness of complex leadership during change management. So there's five approaches: qualitative research, narrative inquiry, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, and case study. I'm going to use narrative inquiry because this is going to help me focus on the stories of individuals, capture their lived experiences, and do that through narratives. By collecting personal accounts, documents, and conversations, I'm hoping to understand how those individuals make sense of their experiences and make sense of their sense-making time in the military. So narrative approach, that's collecting the service member stories. We're going to restory those stories to establish the plot, the framework, and the temporal framing. We're going to understand the rich connectivity of complexity theory. We're going to apply complexity leadership theory as our model for theory. And we're hoping to find the rest of the story that's not told through surveys, that kind of stuff. So data collection, when you're doing narrative inquiry, data is not as clear in narrative inquiry as it is other methods of research. In quantitative research, data is clear, data is concrete. Data collection in narrative inquiry comes from interviews, open-ended, semi-structured. Truth is subjective, but can be a mixture of verifiable and objective. So you take that subjectivity, you verify through various means, and then you turn that into objective data collection. We're going to conduct that data, like I said, through interviews, semi-structured interviews, done on a one-on-one basis, and done in group interviews as well. From that data collection, you move into the procedures. So we're looking at Qual and Poth 2017, and we're looking at the narrative inquiry design, which is going to enable the researcher to gain an understanding of the participants' viewpoints, perceptions, and feelings of real-world, real-life incidents through stories and restoring. Semi-structured interviews, multiple engagements to answer central questions and sub-questions. We have 10 questions and 12 sub-questions with open-ended to allow the individual to tell those stories. Using narrative interviews, storytelling discussions, we'll collect stories, answers, questions, generated emotions, discussions, experiences, and body language. So narrative inquiry, the data analysis that you do when you do a narrative inquiry is narrative inquiry data analysis. Understanding meaning, you gain insight, uncover the rest of the story, and then you code using a mixture of inductive and deductive coding, more of a thematic coding, and you're looking for the themes of the narratives. Generally what you're looking for is the individuals to tell their story, and you pull those rich themes out of there and then restory them in a temporal framework. Using this method of restoring, collect stories, experiences, and then restory them in a collective chronological format. It's going to be done in multiple parts. First, you conduct a narrative analysis, then you analyze the narratives, looking for emergent themes and shared experiences. When you look at the ethical considerations of any research, you look at the credibility of the study, personal bias, protection of participants, ethical considerations, reflexivity, personal bias, protection of participants. From my dissertation, we're looking at my statement concerning ethical considerations. Following the ethical concept of benefits in research involving human subjects, the fundamental objective of this study is going to follow ethical principles. Each personal interview will sign an informed consent. That's the most important. They're going to ensure this clarify the participants that participation in this narrative research study is purely voluntarily basis, and that each individual is free to withdraw from the study at any time or any point without penalty or consequence. And each participant in the research study is going to have a confidentiality, and we're going to understand that there is a risk to individual confidentiality. Risk is to provide everyone with a copy of a confidentiality statement. It's going to cover how I'm going to ensure the participant privacy and protection. Pseudonyms, reverse initials will be used by me to code and identify those individuals and the participants to preserve anonymity and confidentiality. These are my references. As you can see, I really pulled references, qualitative indicators, narrative research, Qual, Poth, Creswell, Denizen, Levy, Hawley, Murtos, Saladano for the code manual, and Spencer and Price for the philosophical approaches, qualitative research